Well, welcome back.
We're back.
This is the Harbor.Church podcast, a little second helping. This is
I'm Ron Burgundy.
I'm Josh Adams. This is the second helping of a second helping, actually.
Third helping.
Very rare. Yep. And my special guest host is my beautiful wife, Kaleigh Adams.
Hello.
As she fills in for Katie Rose. And we were talking about our marriage conference that just concluded. And part of the conference, Kaleigh and I got a chance to lead breakouts where I took the men and kind of had a conversation with just the husbands, and you took the wives and had a conversation with the wives. And part of that concluded by putting some notes in their hands and asking them to respond to some prompts. And we asked them to write down a phrase or a statement that they wish their spouse would say to them, and as well as something that they wish they could say to their spouse that they don't think their spouse would receive or believe.
Yeah.
And then we gave them a chance to write any question that they wanted. What's something you would love to be able to ask your spouse, something you would love to be able to hear from them.
Yeah.
And like maybe you're just afraid to ask. Maybe you're afraid of the answer.
Yep.
Maybe you're afraid of the response of the question, you know. Sometimes we do have a tendency to get angry or to lash out on somebody who's simply asking for clarity.
Yep.
And that's a bad habit. We should all check that in ourselves. And especially in marriage, when you get really close to somebody and familiar with somebody, you don't always receive them peeling back a layer, trying to get more information. It just feels like an attack, or it feels like an insinuation that you're not enough, or not good enough, or not doing enough. So I see a lot of these questions. We got hundreds of questions.
We did.
And we're just going to kind of pick a couple more. We started on the last episode kind of with a couple, and we're just going to keep rolling. And hopefully those of you who are listening, even if you're single, I hope that these would be an encouragement to you to go like, hey, how do I prioritize if I was to get married, or if I have married friends, like maybe the content would be helpful for them as well. And if you're a couple with a lot of years under your belt and God's blessed you with a really healthy marriage, I would encourage you to start speaking into the lives of your kids or the younger couples around you. And today's episode, this part of the podcast might help you get a little insight into what some couples are dealing with.
For sure.
So this is a cross section. This isn't necessarily newlyweds asking these questions. Some of these are people who have been married for decades.
But we don't know because they're anonymous.
They are totally anonymous. We're not sure who it came from. So we're a little bit guessing at the context.
Sure.
And trying to infer what we think is common for marriages, as well as the fact that, let me just once again give another caveat, that Kaleigh will not answer exactly how whoever asked these questions, her answer may not be the exact same answer that your wife would give. So we're not saying that all of our answers. I'm not speaking for all men. I'm trying to represent a generic stereotype answer. I don't know what's the phrase there.
But I hopefully our answers can give you a springboard.
Yeah.
To maybe think about the way that your spouse is thinking, or understand them in a way that, like, again, I'm not actually, we're not going to fight over it because these aren't our questions. So hopefully the goal is that we can maybe answer some questions that would maybe normally cause a fight in a really level-headed way, and maybe kickstart a conversation for you and your spouse. Maybe. Yeah.
I'm totally with you. I think that let's do that. I'll continue. A couple of these are just, I don't know that there is an answer, or that they have a lot of, possibilities where you can go. But I saw a couple guys ask a similar question to the one this guy asked. He said, are you okay with taking care of me as we get older? Oh. Are you dreading being with me as I age? I don't know if that's just an insecurity. Some of the guys feel, I know the tendency is that older men will marry, more husbands are older than wives on average. So maybe that's why the leaning, but that idea of security, a husband's looking for like, what's it look like for you to stay with me forever? A couple guys asked it in a different way. Like, is it still till death do us part? Are you still glad that you married me? A lot of those kind of questions. Yeah. What do you think of as a wife, as a woman, when you hear a husband ask that?
It's really funny because I actually think that that's the mirror image of the question that a lot of women ask, which is, do you still love me even though I'm old and wrinkly? Do you still? And what's underneath that is like, why do I believe you love me? It's really funny. Like, when you talk about men wanting admiration and women wanting, love and pursuit, what's underneath that question? Are you dreading caring for me as I age, or, is it still death till death do us part? Are you still going to love me even when I'm not especially useful to you? Are you still going to love me even when I can't be a protector or a provider? Are you still going to love me when you're actually the one that has to protect me? And I think it actually comes from the same place as a woman saying, are you still going to love me when I'm not young and, attractive or whatever? So I guess, I don't know the answer. Obviously there's men out there that are like, no, I'm going to marry a 20-year-old. And, there's women that are like, no, I'm going to, but I think in a healthy marriage, kind of what we spoke to in the last episode, shout out, go listen to it, is I don't love you because of the things that you do for me. I love you because you belong to me. I love you because you're mine. Like there's a billion people. There's a lot more than a billion people. There's billions of people on the planet Earth, and you're my partner. So yeah, I couldn't, how am I gonna not take care of you, or how am I gonna stop loving you just because you're old? You're my partner. The Bible says that, when we're married, we become one. It says, a man does not hate his own flesh, but instead he loves and cares for it. I think the same's in reverse. Like, I'm not going to start hating myself I'm not going to stop brushing my teeth just because I turn 80. If I got to brush yours too, like, okay.
Come on. That's a great word, Kaleigh.
Like, I think that's it. It's like,
take care of you like I want to take care of myself.
Right. Like I'm planning on showering, until I can't. And if that day comes sooner for you than for me, like sponge bath time, baby, let's go.
Heck yeah, man. All right.
But yeah,
I'm not going to comment anymore.
No, we're done. We're actually going to end that. But no, I would hope that if your marriage is healthy and hopefully if if you've taken the time to work on these things and God's bringing you closer together, that yeah, of course, she's not, I don't think anyone's excited about seeing their partner, become sick or ill or frail or whatever, but you're her partner, you're her person. Like how she, like, of course, whatever she's got to do, because that's who you are now. So she loves you.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
So now I ask you one.
Now you ask me one of the ones.
So this one was interesting. And again, these really are anonymous. I really don't know who you are. And truly, like, if I'm asking it, it's because there's more than one that asked this same sentiment. So I'm kind of combining two of these. But it's why do you feel the need to be the center of all conversations? You always
that feels personal.
I'm sorry, I didn't write this.
Sure you didn't, Kaleigh. You snuck your own in there.
Why is it the need that you feel the need to be the center of all conversations? Why do you cut me off? Why do you feel that what you have to say is more important than what I have to say?
Wow.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it also comes on top of the accusation. Maybe it's a stereotype, but the accusation that men are overbearing. And I don't know that it's limited to men. I do think it goes both ways, but
sure.
I know a lot of times guys we're trying to be all that we're supposed to be. I'm supposed to be a provider. I'm supposed to be a protector. I'm supposed to be the guy. I'm supposed to be the hero. Most of the time we overtalk, overshare, overdramatize. We use a lot of humor and sarcasm because it's a way to deflect. Sometimes we do go overboard on that kind of stuff because we're not sure at what point we're going to actually check the box of being the hero, being the stud, being the guy. And so there is a little bit of like, well, I'm just going to keep trying. I'm going to try till I make people laugh.
Just going to keep talking until you're happy.
Keep going, And
I like that.
And also, like, yeah, men are just as guilty as women of, we do dumb things. And like sometimes the same way you'll get done with a party and go, oh my gosh, I overshared. Oh my gosh. Like whatever. Like, yeah, we're just as guilty. Like we may not be as emotionally sensitive to everybody else's thoughts, but we're still just as likely to run at the mouth or do something dumb and then go, oh yeah, I didn't even realize it. Sometimes it's a nervous tick. Sometimes it's just man, like nobody has helped us. I'll say this, like you have helped me so much, Kaleigh. and seeing things that I never would have seen because like you get a narrative going and you're like, oh, I'm entertaining people right now. Oh, I'm funny. Oh, I'm like, oh, they're bored and they need this or they want this or, oh, that person is quiet. And so I'm helping them come out of their shell. And sometimes wives are just sensitive to things that men are not. And in reverse, men see things that women don't. But you've helped me retrain my brain when it comes to social engagements and interactions. And I'm still really bad at it. I mean, you're married to me and I'm still really bad at this exact thing. So, but having somebody who can like in the car ride go, hey, you know, like they're very timid and you overtalked them and they didn't get a chance to share. So, you know, you want to pull back. And I mean, I've helped you in a couple of situations where it's like, hey, I think you're nervous and you're just trying to fill in the silence because you're nervous and you just need to breathe and let there be that. And when you have a partner that loves you that way, then you can kind of help them see what they're not seeing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys like myself that we have this bravado, we're brash, we're very loud, we're you know, just have that kind of personality. It's fun when it strikes the right chord where you're hero and you're like my husband lights up the room and he makes the party so much better. That is what we're looking for. And what happens sometimes is, oh my gosh, he's embarrassing me and this is so bad and this is the wrong place and the wrong time and the wrong comment and I can't believe he just said that. And it's a balance. And for us, that line is very thin. For you, it might be very obvious, but for us, it's very thin.
Yeah, it sounds, I think what women assume is, well, he's cutting me off because he thinks I'm an idiot or he's cutting me off because he doesn't care what I have to say. And it kind of sounds like what you're saying is, well, no, I'm trying to be the hero. I'm trying to fix everything. Like if I keep talking, then I'll be the one that comes up with a good idea and then I'll be strong and then you'll love me.
Yeah. And if I can, I'll over talk you because I want you to know that I do care and I do want to be a part of the solution. And guys get a bad rap for this because we are trying to fix problems that women don't want us to fix. But women also need to understand that you're coming to a problem fixer and then saying, I'm mad that you're trying to fix the problem. Yeah. Okay, well then like also know your audience a little bit. Like stop beating men up for trying to do the thing that we were designed to do, which is love you and protect you and fix problems. Sure. And sometimes we do that by going like, oh, you want to talk a lot? All right, well, then I'll talk a lot. And then now I'm in trouble for talking a lot. So
that's fair. I get that.
So let me ask one that is, you asked one that apparently a lot of women were asking. I'm going to ask one that a lot of guys asked. Got several in this vein. Okay,
I'm ready.
So one husband said it this way: why do you care so much about other people's opinions? Another guy said, why won't you give me as much time as you give social media and looking at all these other things? Another one says, why is it that whatever your family, and he put in parentheses your sister, thinks, why is that more important?
Sorry. We just made whoever that is fight because they know it's them.
No. Here's the thing. I have three.
That's
true.
One
said, why is it that what your family, aka sister, thinks is more important? One said, why is it what your mom thinks? And one says, why is it what your dad thinks? Like I had different guys ask different things. So like why, basically to summarize it, why do you care about people online? Why do you care about people you'll never meet? Why do you care about the family that you married out of to marry into this family? Why is still all of that other stuff more important? Not that it can't be a level of importance, but why is it that it's more important than me? You married me, said that you're in this with me, but when I say our family should do this, you care more that your parents don't like it. Or when I say you're beautiful, you care more that social media says Kim Kardashian's beautiful. And why is it that my opinion doesn't hold as much weight in your world as everybody else's seems to?
Well, first, I think the first thing is that women don't realize, and it took me a long time to realize that like those two things are connected. So like you said, you know, oh, I think our family should do this. Your family disagrees and you don't respect my opinion. I say you're beautiful. You don't think you're beautiful because you don't look like Kim Kardashian. It took me a long time to realize that like for you, that was the same thing.
Yeah. You're
invalidating my opinion. And I think a ton of women don't realize that. Like, beauty and attraction. Am I like the question of am I physically attractive? Am I beautiful? Am I enough? Am I whatever? Like, am I valuable as a woman in society? Is like a totally separate question from like, hey, like my, dad thinks our kids should go to Harvard and you think they should go to community college. Like those two things are super separate. I know that the joke is like, oh, men's brains are like waffles and everything's separated. In this one area though, like the question of like, is my opinion valuable? I didn't realize how much for men that all runs together. That's all the same thing. Is my opinion, is my word valuable to you? And that doesn't actually matter if we're talking about what brand of car we should buy or whether or not I think your hair looks good. Like that's one thing. So that's kind of that's one piece that I think a lot of women just truly don't realize. So, something to consider that like, hey, if he says you're pretty and you say you don't, like you say you're not pretty, like you're not, you think like, oh, I'm just, I just, okay. You're actually invalidating his opinion and it's actually like hurting his feelings. But the second piece is, I think for a lot of women, again, not all, I don't want to generalize too much, but I think for a lot of women, the people pleasing thing runs really strong. And I think if men have a meter that's like how many people like admire me and like that's kind of what I rise and fall on, I think women have a like is anyone mad at me?
Okay.
Like, is anyone mad at me? Or like, do people approve of me? It's why a woman will, and I'm not trying to make fun of women too much, but like I am, so I kind of get to. It's why women will like take a photo of themselves, put a filter on it that like obscures what they actually look like into oblivion, post it on the internet, and then like live off the dopamine high of those likes for like 3 days. Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that that's not what I really look like. It doesn't matter that it's the dopamine of like, something involved with me, people like, and they notice and they are validating. And like, there's just, like, I think there's this really deep need for that. So so the question for men of like, why am I not enough? I don't know. I mean, that's some really, I think to realize like, that's a really deep seated thing, that need for approval, need for like admiration, that need for affection, that need for, and you're not just going to snap your fingers and erase that. Just respect the amount of healing
what hope is there for a husband listening to this going, I see her down on herself. I see her doubt herself. I see her compare herself. And my words are not making an impact, because if I tell her she's beautiful and I love her, but she gets one negative comment on social media or her mom calls her, her whole world deflates. She's depressed. She's angry. She's sad. And she's down on herself. Why is it why is it a complete stranger or a family member that carries so much more weight? I don't think I appreciate your insight. And I think you're right on like that people pleasing piece. Yeah. But I look at my wife and say, she's beautiful. She hung the moon. I would fight dragons to keep her alive. And she's like, oh, great. Thanks. But then some random stranger, whatever, Popeye Maniac 302 from
notorious internet troll, Popeye Maniac 302.
Yeah. If you have that handle, I just freaking made it up. So whatever. But why is it that you care what that guy says? That he made fun of your video and now you're depressed when he's not even real. He's somebody in somebody's basement. Yeah. And here's the guy you married. And my words don't lift you up, but his words do pull you down.
Yeah. I can't necessarily like untangle that puzzle for you. What I can tell you is if you want to turn the tide, something you might try. Give me some help. Yeah. Something you might try, is make the consequences of your approval bigger than the consequences of other people's disapproval. So like, think about it. For example, maybe, her mom, her sister, her dad, whoever doesn't like something that she's doing. I don't, in this fictitious example, they're going to call her, they're going to text her, they're going to like, I don't like nag her. The consequences of that disapproval, she's going to feel in like several different avenues. How are you making her feel the consequences of your approval? Okay. So that troll on the internet was like, oh, your face sucks. Well, that person like
such a burn. Popeye
he's not like clever, but like, this person, here's the thing. This person took time to scroll past, like to stop, to look at that photo, to like tell, or, whatever. that like there was time involved in that disapproval. So how much time are you putting into your approval? And I'm not telling you that like this is necessarily like the most fair thing in the world, but I'm just saying like, hey, you know what? If you're a guy and this is a real problem for you, you know what, babe? Your social media is loud and you are feeling the weight of like the lack of likes or the lack of clicks. And that's a whole thing that honestly you need to work through. Like that's not good. But in the meantime, while you're working through that, I'm going to make the consequence of my love for you louder than that.
Yeah.
So like, hey, calling you in the middle of the day. Just want to tell you, I think you're hot.
Yeah.
Hey, you walked in the door. She walks in the door. I'm putting my cell phone down. Like the cell phone goes down. You're looking right at that woman. You're like, whoa, you walked in the room. The room's different. You walked in the room. None of my phone doesn't matter. Sports Center doesn't matter. This hot lady just walked into my house. Like, and that's a little bit cliche, but I think it's something that you might try. Just like, well, if it sounds like disapproval from whatever is loud in her life from other sources. So make your approval of her louder than that.
Okay. That's a good word. That's a good word. All right. What's another question from the women?
Another question from the girls. So this is another one that I'm kind of like pushing two of these together, but it's a similar vein. Can you find a way to not just zone out, but to feel with me or to let me in? And the other one, and it's a little bit different, but I think it speaks similarly. Do you enjoy spending time with me? Sometimes I feel alone when it's just the two of us.
Wow. It's weird that both sides are saying the same thing in that.
Yeah.
Like we're not really connected. We're taking up the same space. Mm-hmm. We're in a car together. We're on a couch together, but we don't feel like we're connected. We don't feel like we're bonding. I don't feel like it's real.
Yeah.
So re-ask that first part again.
It says, why can't you allow yourself to feel with me? Could you find a way to not just zone out, but to really feel like with me? I think it's like, let me in on what you're thinking. Yeah. Like, don't dissociate.
I think a lot of guys have never learned how to process emotions, depending on what their dad modeled for them or if they had any male figures model anything for them. Feelings and or vulnerability is a big area that they haven't learned how to process. And there's areas like this for women as well. But for the wives listening, if your husband is like this, there may be more to the story than what you realize. There may be something he is absolutely hiding or unwilling to deal with. There may be something that he doesn't know how. A lot of guys, what I've experienced in just talking with them, is they don't know how to unpack because we've been told since we were little boys, like, hey, just suck it up. Let's go. Be tough. Here you go. Like, we don't cry. We don't whine. Like, let's go. And so you do that enough. It's hard to then after 20 or 30 years of being like, yep, it doesn't matter how I feel. Like, we're going to freaking run laps. We're going to, keep working hard. You're going to go do your thing. And then to all of a sudden have this soft, beautiful creature that is your wife be like, no, tell me. And you're like, I don't know. Like, I've buried that between layer after layer after layer of toughness. It's not that I don't want you to. Now, there might be a man or two out there that's like, I don't want her to know this because I think it'll change her opinion of me. Sure. And so it depends on what the topic is, depends on what the issue is. But there's, and this actually leads into the next question I have for you. But it may also just be that he doesn't know how to address that some of the reason he's so angry, some of the reason he's so impatient, some of the reason he's so quick-tempered or so aloof or dismissive is because those are feelings, thoughts, issues, struggles that he's never allowed himself to walk through. And so rather than just be like, tell me what you're thinking. Well, sometimes I just think about nothing because that makes it easier on my soul after a long day's work. Right. Okay. Well, rather than saying that, then be like, hey, have you ever ask a more direct question? Like you and I, Kaleigh, we talked about this with our kids. You ask your kids, hey, how was today? They're like, fine. Yeah. Okay. Well, asking your kid when they get home from school how their day was is inviting a one-word answer. Good, fine, okay. But then saying like, hey, who'd you sit with at the lunch table today? What did you guys have for lunch? And what was what was the funniest thing that happened today? Or what was the best part of, this class? Like asking a specific question creates a need for their brain to engage and for the socialization to take place.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting with your spouse, if you're just looking for vague, like, hey, what are you thinking? What's going on? How was your day?
Yeah.
Don't be surprised that it's like, that's the most I can process.
Yeah.
But if you're wondering, man, like, why is it every time we talk about his dad? Why is it every time that, a vacation comes up? Why is it that every time his weight or whatever the topic is, it can be a million things. He shuts down, he pulls back, he gets angry, whatever. Maybe you're going to have to take a more like investigative approach. Like, what is going on behind that? Instead of just saying, tell me, you're not telling me you don't love me. To be nagged into it is the worst way to go. So wives, if you can receive this, nagging your husband, no man has ever had I shouldn't say ever, but like no man becomes better from nagging.
Yeah.
Like if you want to help him process through and make some like real decisions and acknowledge some stuff, patiently walk him through like some exercises. Like, hey, what is it that you feel when we talk about this? What is the fear that comes up when we're discussing where we're going to go for Christmas? You know, do you enjoy Christmas with me? Do you want to do this? Do you want to go back to your parents' house? Do you like this? Like, is this not a big deal? Is this holiday have an issue for you? Or have you always felt this way? Like, ask something more generic than like, what's wrong or what's the problem? And then just see if that helps him unpack. Yeah. It might also be that he needs to go to some counseling. It might also be that he needs to get somebody besides the woman he's trying to impress to help him unpack some stuff. And this is where I encourage every guy to have a couple good buddies that he can be honest with. And then like Kaleigh, for you and for any guy listening, give your wife permission to tell your best friends like, hey, there's something going on with Josh here and I don't know how to talk to him about it. Because I can go hit golf balls with a buddy of mine and he can be like, dude, what's your deal with like, then fill in the blank. What's your deal with, like Kaleigh's uncle? What's your deal with like, trying to lose some weight? Why are you always about it? Like, and a guy can just be like, oh, shut up, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then like help you process through in a way that maybe you're too embarrassed to process with your wife, which is sad, but that's a guy thing. Yeah.
And can I give a quick word of advice to the guys just on that?
Sure.
Is I think what I hear, like, and in some of this, guys are like, you're tired, like, I don't want to have this, you don't want to have this conversation at 7 p.m. after you've just worked a 12-hour day. And I totally hear that. So just a word of advice for the guys is, if that's the case, then I would just invite you to sort of look at your calendar and audit, when is it that I am awake enough, alert enough, I have the mental energy for my wife to talk to me? And if you don't have an answer, then it might be, it's a little bit like the sex question. Like if you don't have the bandwidth, if you look and you go, I just don't have the bandwidth for this, well, that's not an option. So where can you create the bandwidth for those conversations? Okay.
That's a great insight.
Just, something to think about.
It dovetails into the question that a lot of men asked.
Okay.
Like it was surprising and sad, Kaleigh.
Okay.
Multiple guys asked, and I told him, I said, what is a question you want to ask your wife, but you don't think you can?
Yeah.
And they worded it different ways.
Okay.
But they're asking this question, do you have some sexual trauma or abuse in your background? Now, there might be some indicators. There might be some stuff. It might just be that the guys, their sex life isn't where they want it to be. And so they're assuming, okay, maybe there's trauma. But I think there's probably also a good chance that there's, and this is, by the way, I told the wives, this is also true on the men's side.
Yeah, absolutely.
That there is trauma.
Yeah.
There is something that's happened in the past. Yeah. And it's been suppressed, it's been buried, and they haven't told anybody about it, including their spouse, and they don't know how, because they think you'll think less of them, they think you'll perceive them as broken, or you won't want them anymore, or that won't be, or that it'll create a big issue. A lot of people's sexual trauma comes from a family member. Yep. If that family member is still alive, or there's still a lot of connections, for people to share this stuff is a big deal. But a lot of men are asking that. How could they broach that subject? How should they? What does that look like for a husband who's not sure if there is something in his wife's past that might be, especially in this category, causing some damage or some fear or whatever? How should he approach it?
Yeah. So I want to asterisk this first of all by saying that this is not something that I've personally walked through. And I want to say that because if I don't I certainly can't speak for this population as someone who hasn't necessarily.
And we do have some great ladies who have counseled through this.
So I just, like I said, I just want to say that, like, if I misspeak here, please be gracious with me. But I do have mentors in my life and friends in my life who have, and what I would say is a couple of different things. One is I don't know that I would lead with I'm guessing some of these questions are coming from a place of of her response around sex. Like, it feels like, that's a tough issue or whatever, or different. I would say I wouldn't just come out and be like, oh, what's the matter? Like, something bad happened to you. But what you might do is, hey, whenever this happens, it feels like it really bothers you. Does it make you feel something? What does that make you feel? What's the first time you remember feeling when this happens between us, you react this way?
Or withdraw.
Or you withdraw. Yeah. Again, it doesn't have to be sexual, but man, whenever this happens, you react this way. How long have you been reacting this way to that stimulus? And then listen to the response. Oh, that's interesting. What's the first time you remember feeling the way that this thing makes you feel? And just give her space to talk to you. Because I would also say that for some people, they don't necessarily recognize that what happened to them is abuse. I mean, that's less and less common as we have a more therapized culture. And again, I'm not just speaking about sexual abuse. Like, sometimes in a conversation, it kind of takes someone to go, hey, that's not good or correct that happened to you. Like, that's not like standard. That's something that is probably giving you a hard time. Like, you should talk to someone about that. But you've got to leave a lot of space for that conversation. So something I would the old adage of be curious, not judgmental. If you feel like you can't just come out and ask that question, when she's having that adverse response, whatever that is, whether that's, being withdrawing or maybe getting really angry about something, you get yourself as non-heated as possible. And just with humility, go hey, you respond this way a lot. And I'm really curious why, or if you don't know why, brainstorm with me. Let
me add a caveat in here, because one of the questions that the guys asked that was asked, I was going to bring up later, but I think it might tie into this. Yeah. He said, how is it that I can bring up a subject about a problem that I have when that problem is you or heavily involved with you? Yeah. So how does a guy not make that feel like an attack? If you have been, sexually abused, or if you do have something going on that you're wrestling with, and maybe physical intimacy isn't the thing. Maybe this is related to something else.
Sure, absolutely.
But there is something you're dealing with. Yep. And I don't know that you're dealing with it, but you are creating a tension, a friction, a frustration in my life. How do I bring that up without you getting mad? How do I bring up why is the house always dirty? Yeah. Now that sounds that's terrible. That sounds terrible, right? Yeah. And I use that as an illustration because I think that's how most guys do it. They're like, I've reached my level of frustration,
and now I'm mad,
and now I'm lashing out. And by the way, words like always and never are not helpful in a marriage discussion. Yeah. But to the greater point that we're making here, how does one bridge a subject or broach a subject that feels like, well, it's you, you're doing or not doing something. Right. And that's causing me confusion, frustration, pain. How do I say that without you just getting mad at me?
Yeah. So I want to just for housekeeping purposes, kind of just put a full stop and a shelve to the prior conversation around were you abused, sexual or otherwise. I want to be careful that what I say next doesn't bleed into that. Okay, so that's,
there may be that, but there's a lot of times
we've kind of put a bow on that.
How do I talk to my wife about sensitive
but now
subjects?
Separately talking. Yeah, absolutely. The times when you and I have done this really well and we've managed to walk through this, it's one thing to say the house is a wreck and, that feels like it's an attack and you're saying there's something wrong with you. It's very different to approach it with a little bit more humility. And I think a powerful way to do that is hey, this is what I'm feeling. So I'm not saying that the house is good or bad. I'm not saying that you're doing a good or bad job, but hey, babe, I am having a hard time with the level of clutter in our house. That's a hard thing for me. I don't work well when there's like stuff everywhere. What do we need to do in order to like for this not to be the case? How can I support you? What's like, is there a way that we can get there? Hey, and even I know there's some like, hey, this is not about, I'm not unattracted to you. This is not about that, but the way that you're treating your body is hurting my feelings.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to see you not care about your health. How can I support you? And
it's a great point.
Like in helping your health. And
I think some of this is just speaking to the thoughtfulness of the approach versus the attack.
Absolutely.
Like and we talked about earlier, I've had so many conversations in my head and I've let this stew for a while
100%.
And I'm allowed myself to already imagine your excuse and your anger. So now I come off the top rope.
Yep.
When I could have just peacefully walked up and said, hey, let me share with you what's going on.
And it comes, and all of that's the root of your heart too, right? So like if I allow myself to rehearse and believe like, oh, like he's such a fat slob and he doesn't care about anything and I'm going to tell him, or, she like, or reverse, or like, oh, he never picks up after himself, or, a man try to like, she never takes care of anything and I have to do everything. If you allow yourself to rehearse that, you shouldn't be surprised that that's how the conversation goes. But if you neutralize it and just go, okay, removing fault, what is the problem here? The problem is that our house is not in a condition where I feel comfortable hosting people, and that's important to me. Yeah. Well, that conversation, now we're having a two-way conversation about how we make our home more functional for both of us. What's the problem here? My spouse is doing things to their body that make me really afraid. We're not going to be able to be active grandparents together. Well, now I'm not attacked. This is a problem that we have, and now we have a way to approach that.
I think you got to look at it though, like, am I right or am I wrong? Like, come into it with the attitude of maybe I'm not seeing everything. Sure. Maybe I don't understand what's going on. Yep. And that way you leave your spouse room to operate. You leave yourself room to be wrong. Like, I haven't thought of everything, and I'm not aware of everything that's going on in your life. Yep. I don't know everything from your past. And maybe to bring it back full circle, maybe us not having sex isn't about sexual trauma, but maybe it is. And because I don't know the answer, I'm not assuming the answer, but I want to invite you into a conversation with me where we can explore what's possible reasonings, and do you know how this makes me feel, and do you understand how I'm afraid this might affect our relationship and our future. It's
not you don't have enough sex with me. It's, hey, I'm concerned that the lack of intimacy in our relationship is affecting our relationship. I know that it's affecting me. Yeah. And I'm concerned that it's going to like affect this thing structurally. Yep. What can we do? And that's still going to be a hard conversation. But you're going to get a lot further with that. And it's because it's not an accusation. Now you're not inviting a defense. You're making an observation. And so you're inviting a discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the stuff you used as an example were actual questions that guys asked. So that's pretty interesting. All right. You give me one more question and I'll give you one more question.
There's so many good ones.
I know. We'll just have to do another podcast later on some more marriage stuff.
Okay.
We'll save some of these and kind of work through a couple more.
All right.
In another episode, maybe.
Earlier we sort of talked about like this idea of respect and admiration and like, how do we show that to you? There were just like, I would say over half the questions were something to the effect of, how can I love you? How can I help you feel loved by me? How can I help you? Will you allow me to help you? How can I serve you? How can I help you be the man God's called you to be? How can I help you lead our family better? How can I show you that I love? Like, it was just so much of that. I think there's some real... I think there's some real questions for some of the women around, like, how do I express that to you? Sure. How do I help you do that? I understand that I need to, I just don't know how.
Well, I said to the women's breakout that I did, where Proverbs says that the right kind of wife is going to use her words to build up her husband, to crown him. But she can also be a decay to him. I think so many women have misunderstood the power that they have to build their husband up or to tear him down. So it is the words you say more than women think, because I don't think women put as much of a priority, as much as of an emphasis on words as men do.
No, which is funny because that's the thing women want the most. But I think they're like, he doesn't need those.
And so it's like, okay, here is something that you can do. And women have asked me this question before, like, how do I love my husband? Well, every guy is different. And, you can read the books, the love languages, that kind of stuff. But 80% of men want intimacy with their wife. Yeah. We already talked about that. Here's another thing, though, beyond that, the way you champion your husband will create in him a response unlike anything you have ever seen. Your husband is a dork from time to time. Your husband is arrogant or shy or boisterous or fill in the blank. Your husband isn't perfect. And he's also married to a woman who isn't perfect.
Most of them.
Right.
Not every man is married. Not every man's married to it.
Well, no, I would argue that. And I think sometimes women feel like, okay, well, he has negated his right to be praised publicly. And there is nobody, I say this, I get introduced at conferences and speaking engagements. I've had people read my bio and talk me up. And, I'm a public speaker. So like having that has happened and I love it. It's like, okay, cool. They're saying nice things about me, whatever. Nothing makes me feel better in the entire world. And I've had more people talk me up than probably the average guy. So I don't know this to be true of every man, but I can say it for me, having actually had the other side of it. Nothing builds me up more than hearing my wife publicly praise me. And I don't mean she has to publicly, like she has to praise me to millions of people. If I catch her talking me up to her family, telling her family, oh, Josh did this great thing. I mean, this is weird. You are sitting in front of me. When you, I'll stop talking theoretically. When you build me up, Kaleigh, to people, when you're like, man, I'm so proud of Josh. Josh does this. Josh leads well. I love them. I like this. Like just speaking affirmation over me to other people, saying it to me is nice.
Yeah.
But when you defend me publicly, when you promote me publicly, and here's the thing, I know I'm probably worse than most husbands. You have to defend me a lot more than probably the average guy, but I speak for a living and do a lot of dumb stuff for a living. And I talk so much that inevitably I say something dumb and hurt somebody's feelings or whatever. So you more than most wives have more to defend. Like, okay, he did something else. What else did he do? What else did he say? But when I see in the times where you're like, oh my gosh, what did Josh do this time? Oh my gosh, like what is that? That crushes me. But when you're on my side, even though I might even be wrong, I'm not saying like you just blindly condone everything I do, but when you give me the benefit of the doubt and you champion me when you champion me in rooms that I'm not in, that does more for me to fuel me. I've heard husbands say this. If you have kids, wives who are listening, if you have children, championing your husband to those kids is such a big deal. Such a big deal that they think mommy believes daddy is the hero of the world and that he hung the moon. And if mommy believes that, then I'm going to believe that and I'm going to lean into it. And if you think I'm only talking about like little children, no, the way you talk about your husband to your teenagers, oh, dad did this again. Dad forgot to do this. And it's the same thing for husbands.
Sure.
Your mom forgot to do, oh, I can't believe she said that. When you mock your spouse to your children, you're not only possibly doing damage to their ego, you're absolutely missing out on opportunities to build them up.
Yeah.
So that's a long answer to basically say, talk well about your spouse in front of other people, especially behind their back. And at all cost, avoid tearing them down to other people behind their back. Yeah. Even if it's your sister, even if it's your mom, even if it's your friend, even if it's your BFF at work.
Yeah.
And you're like, it'll never get back to him. 90% of it never will. But even if just 10% of it gets back to him, it crushes him.
Yeah.
And in the inverse, if you talk him up, and even 10% of that gets back to him, oh my gosh, that guy will walk on clouds. He will charge hell with a squirt gun. He will run through brick walls. because you did the very thing. That might not be the only answer because I don't know where all they came from on that, but like champion to your kids, ask. I think sometimes husbands feel like they're carrying a load.
Yeah.
And it might be time, I think Andy Bethany made a good point of this. Don't call it a season. Seasons have to have endings,
Yeah.
Look for rhythms and recognize that, hey, in this rhythm of our life right now with newborns or with teenagers or with an empty nest or wherever you're at, this might be a rhythm for me to adjust my role inside of our relationship.
Yeah.
And so maybe this is the year that I do the garden, or maybe I take on the bills and you step back from that because you're going through this part of your phase. If you're going back to school and trying to get a degree, what if I was the one who cooked all the meals? Like, look for ways as your partner has changed in life, as you age together, look for ways to go, hey, this hasn't always been the way it was, but maybe for now in this rhythm, as we ebb and flow, maybe now's the time I pick up something.
Yeah. A quick addition to that, because I think you and I have both seen this dynamic, is if you trash talk your spouse to their face and to your kids and to people, but then you gas them up on social media, it doesn't count.
Yeah. That's they just see that as fake. They just see that as a phony thing. You're absolutely right. So yeah, I don't care. Like the amount of people who get on social media and are like, I just love my family. You're like, okay, whatever. You're just saying that. I especially when you know those people, you're like, I don't see any of that in real life. I don't
believe you.
That's some bullcrap.
Sorry.
All right. So let me end with this question, because a couple guys asked something very similar, but I'll read it the way this guy asked it.
Okay.
When will you let it go? We've been going over it forever. I've apologized. You say you've forgiven me, but then it'll come back up again.
Yeah.
Always doing this. Like, and there's multiples of this. And I hear this from men all the time.
Yeah.
She said, we wrestled through it. She's mad at me. We talked about it, and she says she's forgiven, but then she brings it back up when she's mad.
Yeah.
What's going on with that? How do husbands help? What do wives need to hear?
So there's going to be a couple parts to this, and the first half's going to be tough, boys, but stay with me.
Okay.
I'll get to this. But part one is this, and I kind of addressed this a little bit in the breakout session with the guys, actually. So it's almost like mini marriage conference. Like it's a very long podcast. So. We recognize that, but it's a mini marriage conference. Anyway, something that sometimes happens is there's dynamic where like, okay, he's like screwed up, and it sounds like whoever this guy is, like, he knows. I get it. I screwed up. And then they apologize, and hopefully they stop doing it. And then it's like, all right, I did the thing. I apologized. I'm not doing it anymore. So now you forgive me and we move on. And I think what that communicates is like that there's no real humility about that they understand the damage that they caused. It's very different when a guy says, hey, I screwed up and I apologize. And you forgive me, and that's great, and I appreciate that. I recognize trust is going to take time to grow. I recognize it's going to be a while before you can feel the same way about me. I understand that. And as long as you are willing to move towards trust with me, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, as long as it takes. And I am not rushing you to forgive and forget and be past it. I am okay. I'm not mad at you for being mad at me. And listen, I understand that that's not fair. But I think that, like, when we're talking about leadership and we're talking about headship and we're talking about husbands serving their wives, I think when you have screwed up and you've like kind of lost that authority in your household, building that back is going to require you to like to show some humility for a while.
Eat some humble pie.
A little bit. And for you to screw up, apologize, and then expect it to just go back to normal because you said sorry, I think doesn't give full recognition and full weight to the fact that, like, you've messed up in a way it's hard for me to trust you.
It's not like my wife has never messed up.
No.
And how long do I have to pay for this sin?
I would say that too. I think the degree of the offense matters significantly here. Like, absolutely. I 100%. So, and like I said, that's just the first part. And when we talk about this all the time, you can only fix you. So that's the first thing I would say is like, if you're the one asking that question, you're like, if a guy's asking that question, when are you going to let it go? Well, I would first look at, well, what did you do? Yeah. And like, how would you feel if that was done to you? Mm-hmm. And can you be humble enough to like, you did a bad thing and you expect her to forgive you. Can you forgive her for not forgiving you perfectly? Mm. You know, like, the grace that you want her to show you for your screw up, can you show her that grace for not giving you grace? Like, you know, like it's a little circular. The next piece is this, is when she does bring it up, when, like, you know, if she's bringing it up again, and because I've seen the other side of this, right, where it is just, I'm gonna beat you to death with this thing forever. I would encourage you, like, you know, guys, don't be defensive. Don't jump right to, when are you going to let this go? When she comes at you like, all right, here it comes, and I'm going to beat you over the head with this mistake you made. Could you have enough humility? Could you have enough leadership? Could you have enough like strength to kind of take a deep breath and go, hey, it sounds like you're still really hurt. What can I do? You're bringing this up again. It seems like you're still really hurt. It seems like you're still really upset. How can I help? And I understand that, again, it doesn't, what we want is permission to go like, well, she's not getting it. She's not forgiving me. So when do I get to sock her back? And you don't. If you want to keep fighting about the same fight for the next 10 years, then be my guest. Just keep getting mad at her and keep getting mad at her that she's mad at you. But if you want to have any hope of actual reconciliation and moving on, then I think as many times as she comes back to you to get irritated, I'm not saying she's right. She's wrong. We should have grace for each other. We should let love cover a multitude of sins. We should be able to forgive the way God does, forgive, forget, and move on. But if she's making a mistake, it doesn't mean you should. And so if you want to know how to respond rightly, the Bible says it's the loving kindness of God that draws us to repentance. Like, what's the problem? You catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. Like, if she's still beating you up about something, it means she's still hurt. It means there's a part of her that's still fearful, or hey, maybe she is just a control freak who just wants to wants to beat you up. But either way, responding in humility is kind of your only way out there. It tends to be the circumstance tends to be a lot more with an affair, having had an affair. Sure. Although that's not completely limited to it. I mean, no, sometimes, hey, you made an investment and it lost a bunch of money and I'm mad at you. Yeah. We lost friendships. You burned a bridge with my family, something that really upset me. But it's usually fairly major. Yeah. Or like you promised me you weren't going to drink anymore, and then you got drunk again, or something like it feels like a betrayal. Some level of betrayal, some level of like just a horrible decision that was made on both sides. Yeah. And so I've talked to husbands whose wives have cheated on them, wives whose husbands have royally screwed up in one way or another. And the same thing is true. And everything you said is very accurate. There's another part to it I would also say if the person listening to this is like, yeah, get them, Kaleigh. Like, tell them how to to make up. I'd say this though, if you're the one who has been offended, and I do say this in counseling, so this is not like just for the podcast. This is like one-on-one. If you're the one you're the offended party, if you are going to stay in this marriage, if you are making the decision that, okay, we're not going to get divorced, we're not going to close this marriage down, then that same decision has to include a path for redemption. 100%. If there is no path for the redemption, you are prolonging this cancer, and you are doing as much damage to the marriage as he or she did 100%. With their initial offense. And nobody believes me when I say that. They hear it and they go like, oh no, she cheated on me. So yeah, I'm allowed to sit here with bitterness and anger and resentment and make her pay for it for the rest of her life. No. Yeah, he did this horrible thing and he told me he wouldn't, and then he lied to me and he did it. So I'm going to hold it over his head, and I'm never going to truly trust him again. And I'm never going to let go of it. All right, then get a divorce and stop prolonging this thing on life support. It's not living. It's not vibrant. There's no passion. Yeah. And you as the offended party 100% have the opportunity to offer a path back towards life again. Yes. And it's in your power to do that. If you, in your pain, in your bitterness, are not ever going to do that, then admit that and let this person move on with their life. Let you move on with your life. Yeah. But
torturing them for the next 30 years is not any better than the mistake they made. Maybe they did cheat on you. Maybe they did, lose all your money.
Yeah.
But if you're going to just make it a cancerous, hateful, like broken shell of a marriage because you're not going to forgive, then just be honest about it and say, hey, let's move on. That's not to say that you have to have it immediate.
No.
If you truly want the marriage to be good and you're willing to work on, let me build back a bridge of trust.
Yes.
Okay. Give them a path forward. I'm not saying the path has to be overnight or, to your point, just because they apologize, they get back, but there has to be a way back.
I 100%
there has to be
100%. And obviously like that question, we're looking at the person asking, but absolutely. And that might also be part of that. Hey, I just want to make sure, because you're bringing this up again, and hey, I screwed up. I'm willing to eat humble pie as long as it takes. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Are we working together towards a day when there's no longer this power dynamic between us?
Right.
Are we working together towards a day where there's I'm okay. You're still bitter towards me. I understand that. It's going to take time.
Right.
I want to make sure we're still working together towards a day where that's not the case. Because if not, then maybe we do need to think about, because well,
the question is this a wound that's always going to keep bleeding?
Right.
Is that what's happening? Is you're bleeding again? Or is this an injury that is just flaring up?
100%.
Because an injury, like let's heal this wound. The injury, the scar might be there.
Yep.
And there might still be pain from time to time.
Absolutely.
Because we're humans and we don't know how to completely forget.
Totally.
But we're moving forward. Or is this a wound that is never closing up? It's never healing. It's just festering.
And it's going to get septic.
And in which case, let's call that out.
Yeah.
Because it feels like I thought we were good. I thought we got it stitched up and we're healing.
Yep.
And now it feels like it's ripped open again and it's bleeding everywhere again. And, that is not a healthy way to go for it. We gotta figure out, do we got to chop this thing off because it's never going to heal and it's septic? Or is this just, you forgave me and we are in a good spot and we're moving in the right direction. But today the weather changed and your joints hurt and this is an old injury and an old scar and it just stings a little bit.
And I think, they're especially like, we keep using this example, but like, especially in the case of infidelity, like, 20, like you're going to get insecure from time to time. Like that's super fair.
Yeah, it is.
That's really fair.
And if I'm the one who committed the offense, male or female, I got to give you some room to do that.
Yes.
You also as the offended party, or if I'm the offended party, we have to be honest enough to say, this can't be every day ongoing. There has to they have to have room to come back, or else I'm trying to punish them for the rest of their lives.
Right.
In
both sides, the solution is like a lot of grace.
Yes. A lot of grace.
If you're the one who did the thing, you got to have a lot of grace when like, that person needs a minute and maybe it does come up again, and not jump right to like, well, you said you forgave me, so you never get to be upset ever again.
Right.
That's not fair.
And
but also
if you are saying, I want to work on this marriage, then that cannot be a trick to be like, I never want to be married to you, but I want you to suffer for the rest of your life.
I get to make you suffer
just
whenever.
As evil as they are.
Yeah.
And you got to own that. Like that is not any better. All right. So we went way, 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 way long.
We did it.
On a second one. If Katie Rose listens to this, she will she's right now rolling her eyes.
She's going, like, I knew I shouldn't have left them alone together.
Listen, that's how we got Luke. So like it's,
Dad listens.
It's fine. He knows. I'm so excited that you guys joined us and listened and leaned into this. It's a special podcast episode, a bonus episode, a continuation of what was going on. Kaleigh, I hope you and I can come back again and maybe even tackle more of the questions that we didn't get to. I mean, hundreds of questions, and I think they deserve answers. And I know people are hurting, and I know there's marriages that are struggling. That's why I loved the Refueled Conference.
Yes.
I'm glad that we got to do it. I'm glad that you and I and John and Kim Rockness were going to be offering a marriage class after Easter.
It's going to be so great.
They are running Re-Engage, which is an amazing ministry that's
cool.
going to be kicking off
cool.
the end of this year. And man, I'm excited about that. So our church is offering a lot of that. If you attend Harbor or on the South Shore or on Cape Cod, allow our church to pour into your marriage.
Yes.
If you're listening to this, many of you are from around the country, please get plugged into a good God-believing, Bible-preaching church.
Yeah.
And find some community to do life with. If you're married, getting around other godly couples and doing life with them will encourage you, will help you. I cannot stress that enough. You're not good enough, strong enough, smart enough to do this all on your own. God's designed you for community, so find some good community to get in. And if our church can help you in any way, we'll be glad to do it.
Yeah, I like to think there was some good nuggets here today.
Yeah.
But those weren't because like Josh and I are just exceptionally smart people. That comes because we've spent a lot of time
With really
in community with godly people who have studied the word. And that's not like that's. Yeah. So that's the source of all of this. So if you liked what you heard, cool, but you can find more of that in your local church and in the Word of God.
Yeah.
So.
And the Holy Spirit has been at work in you and I overtime. We're probably the chief of jacked up sinner husbands and wives.
For sure.
And by God's grace, he's let us stay together and get better. Like we're not just still together, we're actually improving, which I love. And I pray that over every one of you that are listening to this. Thanks again. Thanks to our producer, Chris,
thank you, and we're sorry.
Who has been belabored for well past the amount of time he signed up for.
Had a bad day.
But we thank you, and we thank you guys for listening. And please send in questions, whether it's about marriage or about other stuff. Send them in, and either Kaleigh and I, or Katie and I, or Katie and somebody, we'll try to get to answer some of that stuff for you.
Yep.
Hope you guys have a great one.
Bye.